A suspect has been charged with murder of foreign officials, other crimes following a deadly shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum. Police say the suspect, Elias Rodriguez, shouted "Free Palestine" as he was taken into custody. The victims, Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, were two Israeli embassy staff workers in Washington. The Israeli embassy posted on X about the shooting, saying in part, "The entire embassy staff is heartbroken and devastated by their murder. No words can express the depth of our grief and horror at this devastating loss." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also released a message about the shooting. Take a listen.
Last night in Washington, something horrific happened. A brutal terrorist shot in cold blood a young, beautiful couple, Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram. Yaron had just bought an engagement ring for Sarah. He was planning to give it to her in Jerusalem next week. They were planning to start a new and happy life together. Well, that tragically did not happen. Yaron and Sarah weren't the victims of a random crime. The terrorist who cruelly gunned them down did so for one reason and one reason alone. He wanted to kill Jews. And as he was taken away, he chanted, "Free Palestine." This is exactly the same chant we heard on October 7th.
All right, joining me now, Jonathan Epstein, who was at the Jewish Museum at the time of the shooting. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us. Why don't you walk us through what you experienced?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So the event was winding down just before 9 p.m. A friend and I were upstairs touring the museum galleries before we were about to leave and walk through those front doors. And we hear a series of three loud bangs, like boom, boom, boom. And my friend asked me, like, what is that? I said, oh, it's just construction. Don't worry about it. And we went downstairs to the main lobby. We were about to exit. And then a man had just come through screaming and yelling about his shoulder being dislocated. And then there's something said about gunshots. And then this all happened very quickly. Security took us into a safer area, away from the entrance, away from the windows. And we're huddling there for a few minutes. And people were talking, okay, what's that shooting? There were staff there from 30 embassies. I was talking to someone from the Embassy of Poland. I said, oh, it's nothing to do with us. It's just drug dealing and gang violence nearby. That's what it must be. And then out of nowhere, a man just stood up now in the atrium, just like around the corner from where we were in the safer area, and started screaming, "Free Palestine," and whipped out keffiyeh, ironically a Jordanian keffiyeh. And then police just showed up, grabbed him, took him away, but we had no idea that he was connected to the shooting. We thought it was just a random protest, a coincidence. And so like we walked up, we got 10 feet away from him. We looked him in the eyes. He looked back at us and just had no idea what was going on. And then we stepped back. The police took him outside, and a woman approached me and goes, like, I was just talking to him. I was like, what happened? He had just entered the atrium 6 minutes prior and he was shaking and looked really nervous. And she approached him and she thought he had heard the gunshots and just needed a safe space. And she asked him, "Do you need water?" And he just kind of looked at her and said, "What is this museum for?" And she said, "Oh, it's a Jewish museum." And he goes, "Oh, like, did they deserve it?" And she had no clue what he was talking about. I had no indication he was the shooter. And he then just like, he said something about call the police, but the police were already on their way because of all the gunshots in the neighborhood. And he just sat there with us for 5 minutes. He sat amongst us in the atrium for 5 minutes until the police showed up.
Yeah, that's the frightening part. So you were basically face to face with the suspect, but not quite knowing that he was the one being taken into custody just minutes later, correct?
Yeah, he was well dressed. He was wearing a sport coat, looked pretty normal. Besides, he was nervous, but we were all nervous. So.
As we're hearing more information and we're hearing about the two victims that were supposed to be engaged and learning more about the suspect, what are your thoughts?
It's just so sad. I'm just thinking about Sarah and Yaron and their families. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, such a frightening event. Jonathan, I appreciate you recalling all of that, and we hope you're doing okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jonathan Epstein.